Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Stemmy Conversations podcast, where we are here to talk all things STEM and ICT. I am your host, Ms. Stephanie Simon, alongside with my co-host, Ms. Kenita Roberts. And today we are going to welcome a very special group of guests on our show today. So they are representing from Barbados, from the Robotics Olympia team. So, guys, kindly introduce yourself and welcome once again to STEMmy Conversations.
Thank you.
Okay, hello. I'm Mystica Innes from the Kolij Robotics Club.
I am Giovanni Gittins.
And I am Zamani Boy.
Okay, so welcome,
Guys.
everyone. So over to you, Miss Kenita. You're gonna have to first go.
Thank you, Stephanie. So first of all, I want the team to tell us a little bit more about the STEM Olympiad in general, so that our viewers can have a overview of, what we really came here to talk about.
Okay, my apologies. Before we do that, this here is Traveling Paris. All right. Okay, would you like to speak on? Just an overview. Okay, well, the College Robotics Club would have entered the Caribbean STEM Olympiad. So there were three categories in it. You had math, you had robotics and coding. We would have done the robotics. Now, the Olympiad is set up in a way where you have the preliminary rounds. In this case, the preliminary round is just you sending in your ideas. So you had to come up with ideas on the robot. You had to display like the code and the way that it's structured, what it's supposed to do. And you would have sent that in. They would have looked at it, judged it based on a set of criteria, and they would have looked at other people's and decide who gets in the finals. Now, once you got into the finals, you had to do a live presentation of your robot, just displaying what it was going to do and speaking about it. The judges would ask you certain questions and they would give you a score based on their criteria. And we ended up on top. So we ended up having the highest in the level 1, which would have been juniors. I think that is 12 to 15. And the level 2, which would have been seniors, that would have been 16 to 18.
Awesome. Well, first of all, congrats. So you should be able to hear me clapping and stuff. So congrats. Okay. So the question that I would like to ask you guys is what opted you to participate in the Olympiad?
Well, for me personally, I was new to the club and it really interested me to be able to join this and be able to, innovate something, create something with a team. And it just sounded really exciting to start off with. And I don't know, it was just something drew me to it. I really enjoyed being able to really think and come up with new ways to help our community.
I'm also new to the Robotics Club, and when I heard about this competition, I thought it was a cool idea to act, and it would be a nice experience to learn something new. I found the idea of this competition interesting, making a robot to help the community. It piqued my interest.
Yes, as the others said, we were all new to the robotics club, so it was a good opportunity to build my knowledge on robotics and also to help the newly formed club enter and therefore go on and win its first competition.
And then in my case, it's just I would have been the president of the club. So I wanted to give the children the opportunity to participate, not just to learn at school. You wanted that environment where they were driven to do their best. So I thought it necessary for the club to do a competition. And when the Caribbean STEM Olympiads came up, it was like, now is my chance, right? And then, of course, you have the fun. Everyone, I'm sure, enjoyed it. So that's just a plus for us.
Definitely.
Okay, that's very, very nice. So tell me a little bit about the challenges that you faced and how you overcome. And also perhaps what was the actual robot about?
Right. The robot was a closed folding robot. So you could basically, we went on the premise that any piece of clothing can be folded in 4 steps. So we, after some discussion among all of us, we decided to choose the closed folding robot and use that premise to design the robot. The first challenge that we had would have to be designing and then calculating the amount of torque needed because you use motors to, the robot has 4 panels, so it flips over to fold the shirt. So we use motors to flip over the shirt. So the first challenge that we had was that we were using one motor per panel, but it was not strong enough to flip over the panel successfully while it has the shirt. So after different testing, we decided that we needed 2 motors per panel so that the robot could effectively flip over the shirt without struggling. Now, additionally, after we passed that challenge, there was a slight hiccup trying to space the panels so that they don't overlap and hit each other. And then we also had a challenge with the motors flipping up because how the motors are connected to the panels. We use a stick, so we were having problems with when the panel will flip over, the stick that would connect the motor to the panel would hit the base and cause the motors to flip up. So those were the main challenges that we faced while building the robot.
Right, and Trevin is our builder, so he knows a lot about all of those complications. He would have had to work through that hours and hours. You could ask him up to, I think, 8 o'clock at night. We here at the school just trying hard to get it through. So we really do have to commend Trevin. He did do a lot of work with this robot. And then Mystica is our designer. So would you like to speak on that?
Okay, so in designing, I was new to designing, so I had to practice my skills to like make sure what I was doing was correct. And as a designer, I was also doing a lot of calculations with the torque. And when I was designing, we had to go through about 3 designs because, again, as Trevin said, we were having issues with the spacing and the motors. And originally, we had an idea where we would have created a box with a hinge instead, but we kind of that didn't go through, and we kind of realized that it would have been more important to use more recyclable materials so that we could have kept that aspect of our um, plan where we wanted to make it to be able to be recyclable, and we can show that you can use simple materials to do a big project.
So I'm guessing, well, I'm assuming that you guys made the robot out of materials that you would have found and just like, I want to curate it in a sense, or did you have a kit that you had to use to build the robot?
Actually, you were allowed to build a robot with a kit. So you would have had many other teams in the Olympiad using a kit to build their robot. So that would have parts that are engineered to be together, like they're made to be together. Sort of like a Lego, actually. So you would just be snapping together pieces, but we wanted to avoid that, not just because we wanted to challenge ourselves, but because we found that it was actually limiting. Because if you have something that is made to go together a specific way, you can't really deviate from that without causing problems. So we ended up using foam board. We ended up using cardboard boxes, just motors, Arduino, so that's like a circuit board, and then just LEDs. And we put together things in the breadboard, did the code ourselves in C++, and that allowed us to achieve our goal very easily. Well, sorry, let me not say easily. That allowed us to achieve our goal because truly we wouldn't have been able to do it with, let's say, a VEX kit. So a VEX kit is what you would see most schools using right now. We actually have a video
Okay,
of it if you want to see.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
please.
I can see why you
okay.
guys came out on top. You guys use a lot of creativity in your project. The video, is it you're gonna play it live right now, or would you like to send it and we can just show our viewers it in a cleaner, clearer clip?
Either way would work. Which would you prefer?
I think
Okay,
they can show
maybe
it
we
here
can
if they
send
like.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So there you would have seen the foam board and the cardboard flipping over the panels and folding the shirt.
I have a basket to close right now, and I would love for your robot to fold it.
You're only looking at me on right in the corner of this room.
Oh my God,
It's
that's very
pretty
nice. And
awesome.
the thing I like about it is that it's very simple looking, and I know you put a lot of work, and it's very simple looking, but it solves everyday issue, I want to say. Because I mean, every day we wear clothes, we wash our clothes, and then we just have a large pile to fold. If you can have a robot, maybe two robots working simultaneously to, fold the clothes very quickly. Because I mean, that took, I don't know how, I can't remember how long was the video, but it felt like less than 10 seconds to just, fold, and you just pick up, put away. So it definitely would make household work very, very much easier.
Here, this is Malik here, who is one of our programmers.
Hello, good morning.
Hi.
Right, but yeah, we did get to solve that issue. That was one of the main selling points of our thing, but we actually took it from the perspective of not just helping people like the everyday person, but actually helping the elderly and disabled. So, Jelani?
Yeah, our goal was to help some elderly or and disabled persons that might not be able to be able to fold that many clothes every day because of any problems that they may have. So our goal was to make this robot so that they can have a much easier time folding the clothes and packing it together. But also you can still use it. Any person can still use it if they want to.
Right. And
I absolutely love that's
as
very lovely.
Thank
Giovanni
you.
said, we cater the robot to the elderly. Therefore, we implemented some um, injury reducing features.
Yeah, safety.
So there's a 5 to 10 second delay after you place the shirt on the robot so that any elderly person can retract their hand or fix up the shirt and have time to step away from the robot before it actually begins to fold to reduce the any injuries that may happen.
Okay, that was awesome. Thank you so much for that. So I have one more question left before we go into another discussion. What advice would you give to our viewers who might be interested in participating in such a competition?
Okay, well, the advice that I would give is to just do it. Because at the end of the day, even if you weren't to come first, there's a lot of work that goes into it. You have to learn so much. You have to learn, not just in terms of robotics, not just in terms of programming and building and designing, but actually teamwork and leadership. So as you're problem solving, as you're working to compete in this competition, you develop yourself not just as an engineer, but as an individual. So I would say any competition you see, once you're interested, once you have the time or the ability, just go for it, do your best, see what comes of it. Even if you don't succeed, you will end up getting some benefits to it. And if you do succeed, great, you get the recognition, you get the praises, you get you get awarded for your efforts, right? So with STEM, there are lots of competitions online. You have in person, you have online, as I said, and you can easily access these competitions through the internet.
Right. As Giovanni said, you just gotta go for it. When I look at myself, I started joining robotics club a couple months ago, and to be in the position that I'm in now, having gained more knowledge on robotics, which are the future, is a very worthwhile venture. So my advice to person would be just to go for it. Just try.
And the most important thing is to just have fun.
I like how you're stitching the piece there. Don't forget to have fun while we're doing these competitions. It mustn't be so serious all the time. Like, just have fun. Be free. So I know that we have another topic to talk about. So I think this was directed to Mr. Giovanni. You wanted to talk about the fight for the legislation on robotics in the workforce. So the floor is all yours.
Right. So I would have been doing the robotics, and my goal was to help society using robotics because I see that with a robot, there's no need to take maternity leave. There's no need to stop and go to lunch. There's no need to pay them when they go sick. So then things become more efficient and more effective as you have the robots working 24/7. They don't make human errors. So then what that causes is a situation where businessmen are actually going to favor having robots over people. And people often say, like, the robots are taking our jobs. But my thing is, a robot can't go into the workplace and fire you and then sit down in your desk and do your job. It can't. What's actually happening is that the business owners are taking advantage of the robots, but they're actually abusing this power that they have through robotics. So what I wanted to do in an effort to um, do in an effort to achieve my goal, which was helping society using robotics, I want to make it so that people cannot abuse robotics to hurt society, to cause the unemployment rate to go up. So I would have been working with a six-farm group right now. We're trying to implement this plan for global citizenship. And the goal is to create legislation where you're saying something like perhaps X amount of people in a given time. So X% of people, right? If it is a low risk job, then they would have to have a certain number of human workers versus robots. If it's a high risk job, maybe that percentage goes up, the percentage of robots that are allowed to work. But the idea is to maintain a workforce where there's an ecosystem of man and machine. So it's not where one is fighting the other. They're working together to achieve the same goal and they're working effectively. You're still getting the benefit of the efficiency of the robot, but you're still making sure that at the end of the day, that father can go and feed his family at home, that that mother can go and provide for her children. You want this ecosystem. You don't want a case where there's predator and prey.
Okay, that's very interesting. I like your perspective. another perspective I would have heard about an issue similar to this is that you would have like a shift in jobs. So instead of you having like manual labor, you just have people basically working to program those robots. And it's very interesting that you brought forward this because it tells me that, you know, somebody is thinking about not everyone might be meant to shift, or not everyone might be meant to have to program the robots, but rather, you know, you can have people who are just born, who are just meant to, you know, do the manual labor to work along, let's say work along with the robots to get the work done. So your perspective is definitely interesting, and I hope that, you know, your voice is heard on it. Steph?
Thank you.
Yes,
And
I
as you were saying, you can't have it where everybody is going to suddenly shift to these STEM fields. We simply don't have a case where everyone is capable of doing such things because your mind works differently. I can't do art. No matter how much I try, I cannot sit down and paint a picture. So what if it was a renaissance shift to that, right? I would be left behind. So it's unreasonable to say that everyone is going to magically be able to do STEM, right? They're going to magically be able to program and magically be able to do robotics. It is possible to shift, but how effective will that shift be? How many people will be left behind? We don't want a case where you have 5 people that get there and then 75 that don't. And even if we all went there, how many jobs would end up not being fulfilled? Because if the person who's a cashier right now, or the person who's working in PR, if they shift to robotics, who's going to do that job? Surely not a robot, because if I call a supermarket and I hear a robot asking me my order, please, no. I yearn for the human interaction. But in reality, right, I would say that there simply isn't enough jobs, right? There isn't enough spots for engineers to work, because if you have one engineering team that makes, let's say, a close folding robot like we would have done, how many people really can then take that job? How many people can really take that position? Sorry. So are we going to have 50 people building the close folding robot? Are we going to have 100 people? There isn't enough, right? So you can have X amount of people in the workforce in terms of robotic engineers, but to then expect that you're bringing in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds more, the job market is going to become saturated. It doesn't work like that in any field, but there are benefits, I will admit, because if you do have these people shifting to the robotics, then they're creating those robots, which, as I said, are going to work with us and create that ecosystem where everything is more efficient and more effective. But to have 100% switch to STEM, I just think that that's unrealistic. So you need to create an environment where you have the some that switch to STEM, and then you have the some that maintain their jobs, but just working alongside the robots, as you would have said.
Okay, so I totally agree with everything that was said so far, and I really hope that your voice is being heard and it could actually be turned into like a policy where it's not a case the robots are doing everything, so we can actually have the human beings alongside with the robots working side by side to get the task done, be it whatever that task is. So anything else you would like to add, Kenita?
Yes, actually. I know I didn't hear from the programmer, and I want to give the programmer a chance to speak. So my question to the programmer, so we're kind of going back a little bit, but that's okay. What are some of the challenges that you would have faced, and how did you overcome it? Also, I'm curious to know like what programming language was used.
Well, the programming language that was used was C++. We used Arduino for that, Arduino app. And if I'm to be honest, there were a lot of challenges. So many to count that it was, whew. one of the challenges mainly was originally in the actual design we want, as Trevin was saying, we wanted to implement some safety features. So we had LCD display which would say when it's on and the process is happening. It would help with the timer. It also had LED lights. So programming those in time was also a challenge because I would say we had time, but sometimes time constraints, things don't work. So it was difficult to get those in the actual finished product. There is a hope in the future we may be able to improve upon those, maybe even because one of the things we also wanted to add was a sound, like a little buzz to let you know, oh, it's done. It's about to start, in order to help the consumer more easily access and use the actual robot. Because as I would consider the robot easy to use, all right, but sometimes you can't always assume for the average person. So we want to be able to make it accessible for everyone. You know, because I'm be honest, I want a clothes folding robot too. You know, everybody wants to. Nobody wants to fold their clothes. It's tedious. Sometimes you don't want to do the tedious job.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that insight. Stephanie, over to you.
Okay, with that being said, we would have come to an end of our episode. So I want to thank you. I want to thank the entire team, and then with the team is is Kolij Robotics Club. I just want to ensure that I pronounce it right.
Yeah, College Robotics Club.
Okay, so I want to give you guys a special thanks to the Kolij Robotics Club that is based in Barbados. And I want to thank you so much for sharing whatever you would have done for the Olympiad competition. I think it's very inspiring, and there's a lot of key things that we can take away from here today. And I want my viewers out there to be able to follow us on social media, STEM Conversations, via Facebook, Instagram, on our major podcasting sites as well, Anchor, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Not forgetting to mention Digicells Go Loud. And also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you guys, and do have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Bye.